So data types are classification or categorization of data items. So data types represent a kind of value which determines what operations can be performed on the data. So I said a equals to 10 and a is integer. So what operations can I perform? I can do all this subtraction, addition, division, multiplication, etc. So that is what data types actually does. So it will determine what sort of operations I can do. So I can say my a is 10. So I can do something like a plus 20. My a is 10. So the answer will be 30. The answer I get is 30. I can do something like a divided by 2. So 10 by 2, the answer will be 5. So it will determine the data type of this particular variable determines what sort of operations I can perform on data. Okay. So there are two types of data types in Python, primitive and non-primitive. So the first is primitive data types. We have none, numbers, string, and boolean. So none. So now let us understand non-primitive data types. The first of non-primitive data types is list. The first one is list. And what list is list? The simplest data structure in Python and is used to store a list of values. So it is simplest data structure and we use to store a list of values. So lists are collection of items. The items could be strings, integers, or even other lists. So when we look at primitive data type like a string, what is a string? It is a collection of characters, right? So now lists are collections of, it could be lists are collections of, it could be lists are collections of strings, it could be integers, or it could be other lists as well. So each item in a list has an assigned index value. So just like strings, we have index for here as well. And now lists are enclosed in these brackets, square brackets. So lists are part of standard language and you will find them everywhere. Like almost everything in Python, lists are also objects. So for now, you don't know what is object, so ignore it. There are many methods associated to it. So we are going to look at some of the important methods of list. And then each item in a list is separated by a comma. So unlike strings, lists are mutable. So which means they can be changed. When we looked at strings, we understood that strings cannot be changed. Strings are immutable. So first, I said my str, my string equals to hello. So what is it? It's a collection of characters. Now my list is, what if I say if I want to have 10, hello, etc. I want to collect a lot of other objects as well, maybe complex like 3 plus 4.5j. Remember that it is j, not I in Python. And then we have what else did we learn? We have learned something called as boolean, right? True, etc. What if we want to collect everything and store it in a single variable? So can we do that? Can we do something like where equals to like this? The answer is yes, but when if we do it, that will be a tuple. It will do it, that is, it will be a tuple. The reason is by default, the default data type in Python is tuple. So if I want to convert it into a list, so if I want to store integer, string, complex, then boolean, float, etc., then I want to create a list. I want to create a list, and then I can store everything as part of one variable. And this variable is my list now. This is my list. And why is it a list? Because I enclosed everything in square brackets. I enclosed everything in square brackets. So I enclosed everything in square brackets. So that is the reason it became a list. So all the collection of items, and these items are heterogeneous. Heterogeneous. So what is the meaning of heterogeneous? It's the opposite of homogeneous. Homogeneous is all strings, all integers like 12, 13, 14. If I create a list of all integers, only integers, then it is homogeneous list. But list is a collection of heterogeneous. I can create a list of all integers also. I can create a list of combination of integers, string, complex, boolean, float, etc. So a list by default or inbuilt function of Python is that it is a heterogeneous collection of data types. It is a heterogeneous collection of data types. A list can be a collection of strings. Just say my string 1, etc. And then we have true, boolean, we have float like 5.6, etc. And it can also have a list. List can also have a list. We can have a, then high, etc. it can also have list. So not only list is a combination of primitive data types, but it can also have non-primitive data types as well. So we can have, instead of list, we can have tuple as well. So here we haven't seen what is a tuple, but this is second non-primitive type. We have four, right? List, tuple, set, and dictionary. We can have tuples as well as part of list. So list is a collection of heterogeneous items. What are heterogeneous? They could be, they are strings, integers, lists, boolean, etc. So all this collection of, okay. So let us create a list. So let me just say list one. List one equals to, I want to say 10, 15, high, and then let me create a complex number as well. So 4 plus 5j. Okay. So now, so if I look at type of list one, you can see that it is a list. My type, this is a list. So okay, we have created a list. Okay. So what is the first thing that we want to learn about list? It is heterogeneous. Okay. Then how do we access elements of a list? Just like strings. Just like strings, we can access elements of a list using index. So list one of 0. So what does it give? 10. So if I want to access high, if I want to access high, then how will I do it? List one of 0, 1, 2. Okay. List one of 2. This will give high. Okay. Similarly, if I want to access 4 plus 5j, then how can we do it? List one of 3, this also gives, or list one of minus 1, negative index. Remember from yesterday's class, minus 1, negative index. So from here also we can get it. We can get this 4 plus 5j. Negative index are exactly like strings, and slicing and dicing works for lists as well. List one of 2 to end. I'm not specifying any end. So what does it mean? We don't specify anything till the end from second index. So it will be a subset. It will be a list again. So when we do slicing, it will be a list again. So when we do access index of an element, any element using an index, it is no longer a list. So when I do this list of 0, it is one single element. But when I do slicing, it will be a list again. It will be a list again. Okay. One more thing that you need to remember, and then we can do something like this as well. It will be a list. So if I want to create a list of 10, I want to access this particular element 10, but I want it to be a list. Then how will I do it? And I'll say list 1, 0 to 1. So why do I'll give 1 here? Because it is exclusive. If I give 1, it will not take 1. It will only take 0. So if I run it, I'll give 10. I'll get 10. Okay. This is how, if I want to access 10, but I want the output to be a list again, then I'll do like this. Okay. Otherwise, the accessing of elements in a string and list are exactly the same. Now, just like strings, if I do something called list of 10, we don't have 10 elements. It also throws an error for us, list index out of range. And similarly, like strings, if I do 10 to 20, it doesn't throw any error. It will be an empty list. Slicing never gives any error. So now comes the first a little confusing topic of list. Let me create list 2. List 2. Here I'll say 10, and next hi, and next welcome. I'll say true, and I want to be. We learned that list is a collection of what, it could be collection of strings, it could be collection of integers, complex boolean, and it could be a collection of other lists as well. So let me create one more list inside here. So here this time I'll say hello, hello, and probably say good morning, and then let me create a complex number here, 4 plus 4j, simply. Okay, and then one more thing here, just say none. Okay, none is one more data type. We only looked at it in the PPT, not in the Python. So none, this is how we create none variable. Okay, so this a list, it is a collection of not only other elements, other primitive data types, but it also has a list. So now if I do type of list2, it won't be list of lists, it will be just a list. The type will be just a list. Okay, but it is a list of lists as well. There are other lists as well. Okay, not exactly list of lists, but it is a list containing one more list. We'll look at list of lists again later. When we look at loops, when we talk about for loops, everything, we look at list of lists in depth. Okay, for now we understood, like, okay, what if I want to access 4j, this element alone? So how will you do it? So any guesses, guys? If I want to access 4j, so what should I do? How should I do? So, or slicing for that matter, how can we access 4j? My output should be 4j. Like here we have output like 10, right? Here we have an output like 10 or high here. So that is how I want my output to be 4j, nothing else. Okay, so now if I want to access 4j, what need to do is first I have to traverse to this particular list. So if I say list 2 of 0, 1, 2, 3, if I do list 2 of 3, what do I get? I get true, right? If I do list 2 of 4, if I list 2 of 4, I won't get hello, but I'll get the entire list. The entire list. This entire list is my index here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is my 4. The entire list is my 4, and this is my 5. So if I want to access 4j, what I need to do is I have to first go to list 2 of, where is it my 4j? It is inside a list. So list 2 of 4j, list 2 of 4, that will give me my entire list. Inside that list, I want to access 4j. So how do I do it? This is simple, right? If I do 2, if I do list 2 of 2, then it will give me this 4j for me. Sorry, 1. This will give me 4j for me. So this is how I access list of lists, the elements inside list, using indexes. So here you see that I was given 2. If we have list of lists, so if we have one more list inside it, inside is if I have one more list, let's say list 1, list 2, etc. If I have like this, let me call it list 3. If I want to access list 1 here, this part, how do I do it? I'll say list 3 of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4, and then outside. Okay, list of 4. What will it give? List of 4, this entire list till here, till here. Okay, and till here, what do I do? Then how do I access this one, this particular list? What is the index? 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'll say 3. Okay, and inside this, it is 0. So I'll say 0. If I have a list, I'll keep doing here one more like this. I'll keep adding here like this. Okay, so again remember, this will give me list 1 as discussed. Again remember that I'm not accessing like this, like 4 inside 3 inside 0. I'm not doing this way. So you can see the difference, right? So I'm not doing it this way, I'm doing it this way. This is how I'm trying to access it, elements, not like this. Okay, if I do something like this, it throws an error. So it gives warning and then it throws an error, something like this. Okay, this is how we access elements inside a list. Okay, this is accessing of an elements of a list. And how do we access elements if we have list of lists? Okay, good, nice. So this is how we access elements of a list, and if you have inside list inside list, this is how we do it. Now comes, let's talk about the property of list. So we have seen all the other things that we have checked, like negative index, negative slicing, etc. That applies for list. I'm not repeating the same thing again here. So just try it out, and the more you are comfortable with list, the more faster you can do it. So whenever we start doing any pre-processing, right, the second stage of data science, data collection, EDA, and pre-processing. After data collection, the second step is pre-processing after EDA. So while doing EDA and data processing, lists are very important. So that time it will help us fasten a lot. Okay. So we have seen how do we access elements of a list. So the first and most important property of list is it is mutable. What is the meaning of mutable? I can change list. I can change the value of list. What does changing the value of list means? Here I have list 1. Let me print list 1. Okay, this is my list 1. Remember, this is list that we created. Okay, what does changing means? If I say list 1 of 0, it gives 10. Now I can change this value. So initially I created 10, 15, high and a complex number, right? So now I can replace this 10 with 20. And how do I replace list 1 of what is the index? 0. I want to replace this 10, right? 10. I'll say equals to 15 or 15 is already there. So let's just say 87. If I do list 0 of 87 and if I do print of list 1, if I do print of list 1, it will give 87. So I have changed it. I've changed this list because the value of particular list from 87 from 10 to 87. Remember guys, so when how are we reassigning the values? So let's just say first a equals to 10 and then if I do print of a, I'm giving 10. If I do a equals to 15 and if I do print of a, it gives 15, right? Remember, this is exactly what is happening in the list as well. So instead of changing the entire list, if I do something called list 1 equals to 80, then I'm changing my entire list. I'm changing my entire list. If I do print of list 1, I'm changing my entire. But if I want to change only one element of a list, then what do I do is, let me create that list 1 again. So if I want to change only one element of a list, I'll say list 1 of, if I want to change hi to hello, I'll say where is my hi? 0, 1, 2. So my 2 equals to, I'll say hello. I'll say hello. And if I do print of list 1, it will say 10, 15, hello and complex number. So this is how we change elements of a list. We are not reassigning the list. We are not reassigning a variable here. We are changing the elements of a list. And this property allowing us to change is called mutability. So lists are mutable because they allow us to change the elements of a list. Allow us to change the elements of a list. So that is important. So the first thing that I spoke about string is not actually a string, but it's a collection of characters, right? So let me just say Google. It's a collection of characters, right? Now can we do the same? So if I do string of 3, I'll get G. This second G. Remember, if I do, can I change it? Let's try. If I do string of equals to instead of G, I want to say K instead of G. So can I do it? The answer is no. The answer is no. We got an error. str object does not support items, something like this. The reason is strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. That means once created, I cannot change string. That is immutability. I cannot change string. So that is immutability. Having said that, a lot of people get confused. So initially I said string equals to Google. I said strings cannot be changed. But if I do something called string equals to Bing, this Python allows this. Python allows this. Why does it allow this? Because when we are doing string equals to Bing, what we are doing is reassigning the value of string. Reassigning the value of string. We are completely changing the value of string. That allows, Python allows this one. But when I do this one, what we are doing is we are changing a particular value of a string, and because strings are immutable, that means cannot be changed, it throws an error. It throws an error. So that is the difference, small difference between immutability and mutability. And those strings can be reassigned just like integers, float, complex, etc. Just like everything, all the primitive data types, we can reassign the value, reassign the variables. Okay, we can reassign strings as well, but the values of strings cannot be changed using index, etc. Because strings are immutable. We can do it for lists are mutable. So let us look at one more example. If I do print of list 2, okay, if I want to change good morning to good evening, how do I do it? List 2 of, what is the index? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 of 2. And I'll say instead of good morning, I'll say uh, good evening. Okay. So if I do it, and if I do print of list to, it throws my good morning has got changed to good evening. So this is the mutability property of list. And why are lists very important? Because we can change elements of a list. So that is the reason lists are the most important topics in Python. So even if you go through the deck that I prepared, it will say this is one of the most important properties of a list. Sorry, of Python. Lists are most important topic. And the reason is they are mutable. So this is how we access elements of a list, and this is how we can change the value of a list. So this is the difference between mutability and immutability.